Hello and welcome to another video with me, Christian Rauchenwald. Now in today's video I'm going to take a closer look at our Helium earnings during the first roughly 14-day period, and I'm also going to share with you how you can check if jumping on the Helium project, so getting a Helium hotspot for yourself, might be profitable for you, and how you can basically check how profitable it could theoretically be. And in order to do all of that, I've opened up the Helium app on my phone here, and I'm going to share the screen with you guys there. And the first thing you'll notice in the app is that within the past 24 hours, we earned exactly 0.86 HNT, so Helium. And you might now be wondering how much that actually is in quotes in real money, so in US dollars or euro. Now our app is configured in euros, so if I go to the second section in the app and press our total balance of 9.35, it switches to euro, and we can go back and you can see that during the last 24-hour period we earned 14.36 euro, which might be around $18, a little bit more, a little bit less. Now obviously that's now just a one-day snapshot, so the big question is actually how much did we earn during the first 14 days. One thing to point out here straight away is, however, our hotspot hasn't been running for 14 days, but it's already online for 16 or 17 days. And you might now think that that actually would mean if we made 155 euro divided by 16 or 17 days, that our earnings per day are actually below 10 euro per day. But that's not accurate, because if you look at the screen, you can also see the blue bar on the left, which is the first withdrawal I made, because on the first of the month I usually transfer coins that we earn in certain ways into our crypto.com or Gada wallet. And as you can see, I already withdrew 92 euro. So our total earnings for the first 16 to 17 days are 247 euros and 38 cents worth of Helium, which obviously is quite nice, because it means on average we make more than 10 euro per day, which means in a month it should be more than 300 euros just for running that low power consuming Helium hotspot that we have from CalChip Connect. In other words, the return of investment for us right now with our CalChip hotspot should be pretty much 1 month plus minus a few days, and after that we are just looking at making profit every day the hotspot keeps running and earns us more Helium. Now before we jump into how you can decide if it's worth getting a Helium hotspot for yourself in regards to placement and so on, one more thing that I want to show in the app. If we go back to the hotspot and I select the hotspot and swipe up, you can see that it will load the earnings for the last 14 days. And you can also see that they vary, that we have a day where we only had 0.15 HNT that we earned, so around 2 euro or so. And then on other days we earn more than 1 HNT, which depending on the price right now should be around 18 to 20 euro in one day. So overall you also can see that it's not always the same. Sometimes it gets a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. It depends on how many hotspots you witness, how often you and they send out beacons and a bunch of other things. But to simplify things, because I know in the end most of you just care about how they can earn and how much they can earn, the only thing that's really relevant to you is how many hotspots are around you and how many of them can reach your hotspot and how many of those hotspots your hotspot can reach as well. Now in order to show you how you can decide for yourself if it might be worth for you to get a hotspot or not, we're going to actually switch to my computer in a second. But before we do that, I want to quickly swipe down here so you can see the map. And you can see that in the hexagon that we are in, there are no other hotspots, but you can see that there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 hexagons in our surrounding area, and many of them have 2 or 3 hotspots. So you might think that there are like 20 witnesses or 20 hotspots that are able to witness our hotspot, and if you don't have that many you will earn less and so on. However, if we check our witness list, you will see that there are only 5 witnesses we are communicating with, so it's not 12 or 15 or 20. And the reason for that is that if we check any of those grids here, let's pick one with 3 hotspots, then you can see the first one is online, the second one, however, is offline, and the third one is also offline. So most of the hotspots currently surrounding us are actually offline right now. So once the operators of those hotspots actually get their shit together and get those hotspots back online, chances are that our earnings will more than double, because we will have way more hotspots witnessing our hotspots and will be able to witness other hotspots more frequently as well. However, that's obviously just good for me and doesn't help you in any way. So let's now take a look at how you can figure out if it's worth for you to get a hotspot, how many hotspots are around you, and so on. And for that, I'm actually going to share my screen with you guys right now. And as you can see, we're still looking at my hotspot here in the Kiev area, and we are looking at the 5 hotspots that we are able to witness, or that are able to witness our hotspot, and also the squares or hexagons here. If you already did some research, you already learned that one bad thing would be to have other hotspots close by. So technically those hexagons here with 3 hotspots should earn less because they are too close to each other, but that's not fully accurate because the map on the official Helium Explorer doesn't show you the precise location of the hotspot and doesn't give you an idea if they affect each other or not. In this case, however, it's the same like I showed you in the app. There are 3 hotspots, but only one of them is online. And as you can see, that hotspot earned 18.29 HNT during the last 30-day period. And let's see, 7 days and 30 days, so $360, although the earnings used to be lower in the beginning of the month and recently increased, likely because more hotspots came online. That's, however, still not the relevant point. The only thing I wanted to highlight to you here is that just because the map says there are 3 hotspots doesn't mean that all of them are online. However, it gets even better because I'm going to zoom out here and I'm going to navigate to another triangle here. That's, hope I find it. It should be one with 3 hotspots, or there are by now 4 hotspots. Then it should be this one. Here we have it. So here we have 4 hotspots, and as you can see right now, 2 of them earn with the 1 times multiplier, one with a 0.83 multiplier, and that one here actually joined new and actually likely ruined the earnings for this one here a little bit. So there are 4 hotspots and 2 of them still earn the full amount and are not affected negatively by the other 3 hotspots around them. And you might be wondering, how is that possible? How is it actually decided? Like, which of those hotspots gets reduced earning multipliers because other hotspots are nearby and which one doesn't? Because obviously the official Helium Explorer doesn't tell you why or how it works. However, when you go to a different website called Helium Place, now that's a different kind of map, and you can actually see the officially registered location of each hotspot. Now each black dot on the map is a hotspot that's currently offline. Each blue hotspot is one that's online with a reward of 1.0, so not negatively affected. And you can see the color code in the bottom right corner that explains how earning multipliers are then getting lower depending on other hotspots. And the important thing of this map is, I already jumped ahead a little bit, is when you click on any point here, it will create a red area that highlights the no witness range of your hotspot. So for example, this here is our hotspot, and as you can see, right outside of our red area is this hotspot here that's currently offline. However, even if that hotspot gets online, it will not affect our earnings because it's right outside of the coverage area. On the other hand, this hotspot here will still earn less, assuming that both of them here come online, because they are within each other's no witness area. And worst would be a situation like here, where there are apparently 3 hotspots registered that are really next to each other, and therefore they would obviously reduce their earnings drastically. However, you can also see that this black dot here is outside of that area, so its earnings, once that hotspot comes online, assuming the other one here would also be online, would only be affected by that one. But on the other hand, if we check the second black dot here, you see that it's within the range, and the blue dot here is also within the range. So theoretically, if all those 5 hotspots would come online, that hotspot here would be in the no earnings area of basically 3 of them, and therefore have very reduced earnings, whereas this hotspot here would only be reduced by 1 hotspot or affected by 1 hotspot. And obviously among those 3 hotspots, if they all would come online, this one here would be affected by its 2 neighbors, whereas the other 2 would actually be affected by those 2 neighbors and by that 3rd one as well. Now let's zoom out here and look for the square or for the hexagon that actually reflects the 4 hotspots that I showed you that are hardly affected from or by each other. And those should actually be, it's going to be a little bit tricky to find. I'll have to switch a little bit back and forth here. So we're looking for a road that looks like this, and then we're going to the right of it. So for that purpose, I think it was this road that goes here, and there we have it actually. So this here is the part of the road, and the hexagon is in this area here. So if we switch back again, you can see this is the road. And then a little bit to the right, we have that hexagon that goes from this road to a parallel street roughly and goes a few roads down until we see this form down here. So overall, if we close that, we see that the hexagon basically goes till here and then also ends, where do we have the shape, ends down here. So it's somehow like this. And if we look here, we have one offline hotspot and we have this hotspot here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit to make things easier. So we have this hotspot here that is not covering that hotspot and is not covering that hotspot, and therefore those two, or that hotspot is not affected by those two other hotspots. However, this here, Cool Cloud Piranha, let's check that, should actually be the new hotspot. You can see it says 3 days ago, and it's actually affecting Clumsy Raisin Ferret. Now, if we look here, that's likely Clumsy Raisin Ferret. And yes, it is. So as a result, although in this small area, in this one hexagon on the official Explorer, there are a total of 4 different hotspots, although this one here on the Helium Place website is still listed as offline, only that one here gets affected by the new one that came online, that Cool Cloud Piranha. However, that Cool Cloud Piranha is still placed in a way that those other 2 hotspots are actually outside of its no witness area, which means those 2 hotspots will have 1.0 earnings or reward scale, so they will earn more or as usual, and they will actually benefit from that second hotspot. Whereas those 2 hotspots are now a little bit in competition to each other. So that guy that has this hotspot here online will actually now suffers a little because that guy here or somebody here installed the hotspot as well. Now, why does this matter for you and how can you figure out how much you can earn or if it will be profitable for you? First of all, simply use the regular Helium Explorer and find the place where you want to install a hotspot to simply check, is there already a hotspot or a hex with a hotspot in that area, or maybe already multiple hotspots, and how many surrounding hotspots are there? And I know based on our witnesses, you might be worried that, well, there are a couple of hotspots, but they're far away, so you will not earn something. But that actually doesn't have to be true and comes down to a lot of factors like your antenna placement. So if we go back to the official Helium Explorer, as mentioned, we currently have 5 witnesses here. And that is because our antenna is actually placed badly. So our apartment is on the 7th floor and we are more or less surrounded by taller buildings. Now in front of the window where the hotspot is placed, there is a wide road. That would be this road that you can see on the map here, which allows us probably to have the signal go a little bit further left and right. But besides that, behind our building and on the other side of the road and everywhere are buildings that are taller than our 7th floor apartment, which means we're not in a prime situation here. And that's why the reach of our hotspot is obviously a little bit affected, but still actually is better than what I thought it would be. On top of that, our hotspot uses the 2.8 dBi default antenna that CalChip delivers with the RUC V2, and we could also upgrade that to a stronger antenna, which might also help us. However, to point out how important antenna placement is, if we select the hotspot, I think from this hex here, should be this one if I'm not mistaken. Let's check, is it this one? No, it's obviously not this one, and it was this square here, and we select this one. You can see that this hotspot apparently has his antenna installed on the rooftop, and he's able to reach and communicate with hotspots that are further away as well. You can also see that he doesn't communicate with any of these squares, which means that either the hotspots they are currently offline or they need attention, or that they also have the antennas not installed high enough. But point being is, don't just judge based on what's in your immediate area, but if you know that you will be able to install the antenna of your hotspot on the rooftop and you're not covered or surrounded by skyscrapers, well, then you can look a little bit further and consider you might be able to reach hotspots that are maybe 10 or more kilometers away as well. Now, if you look at the earnings for this hotspot here, it's not as good. And you can see that that hotspot actually just got online around August 24th and initially had lower earnings, and apparently maybe they changed the placement or replace the antenna or something like that. But basically you can also see that during the last couple of days they actually earn more than 1 HNT per day, and it might even stay like this. So don't just judge based on your immediate area. So looking at the current map, let's say you would be here in this small island here and there is no hexagon, so there's no hotspot right now, and there is none immediately next to you. That doesn't mean that you will earn nothing. It just depends on how you place your antenna. But our hotspot proves that even with a bad antenna or bad placement in quotes, we still are able to reach hotspots that are a few kilometers away. On top of that, as said, if there are already hotspots in your area, so in your hexagon, well, the only place for you then to check is helium.place. Look for your area and then simply click exactly on the spot where you would place the hotspot. As mentioned, there are already 4 hotspots in this area here, yeah, but technically I could place a hotspot, let's say up a little bit further here. I could place a hotspot here, so that would make it 5 hotspots in that area, and my hotspot would still have the 1.0 reward scale because it would not encompass the other hotspots location. And that's actually one important aspect. I honestly just got lucky. I showed you that we have a hotspot that's currently offline, but that's also just out of our area, because when you install your Helium hotspot, you're actually selecting the location on the map within the app, which means you obviously shouldn't cheat there. But if you are somewhere on this road and you use Helium Place and you see that if you place your hotspot here, it would overlap with this one, well, then you can just place it a little bit different from where it actually is, because that small difference here is pretty much like a margin of error when you use Google Maps on your phone to find or pinpoint the location, but it will make a huge difference in your earnings. So in other words, not only for you to decide if it's still profitable for you to get a hotspot, but also when you then set up the hotspot and pick the location, make sure to consult helium.place first. Look at the hotspots that are already around you, and if needed, adjust the positioning by 1 or 2 of the smaller hexes here to make sure your hotspot doesn't overlap with any of the existing ones. Like placing a hotspot right here would, in my opinion, be highly profitable, because it would likely or almost definitely be able to basically communicate with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hotspots plus the 6th one that's already online, and that's just within the 2 hex area here, not considering all the other hotspots that it might reach throughout the city. So let's sum this up. What's the return of investment for a Helium hotspot? The answer is it varies on your placement of your hotspot, how soon you get online, how many other hotspots there are, and so on. Do I think it's too late to jump on the Helium project? In my opinion, definitely no. The only difference that it will make, in my opinion, is if you are lucky and you'll make your money back in a week, a month, or if you're unlucky in quotes and it might take you a year to make the $300 to $400 that the hotspots cost back first. But once you have your money back, well, you will start to make some profit. And that profit might be $10 per day, it might be $1 per day, it might be less, it might be much more. It depends on a lot of factors. Would I personally get a hotspot if there would be not a single hotspot within Kiev? Well, that's exactly what I did, because when we ordered our hotspot back in January or February, there was not a single hotspot online in Kiev, but by the time we got ours online, there were already 10, 20 or even more online, making it easier for us to earn more. Sure, there was the risk that while we waited for our hotspot that somebody would install something exactly in our hexagon and we would earn less, well, but we would still earn something, and just a matter of time, in my opinion, until we would have made the money back. On the other hand, there's for sure also the risk that you never get the $300 to $400 back with Helium Network that you invested to get the hotspot in the first place. But that's just something you have to consider for yourself after, again, consulting the Helium Explorer and helium.place to decide for yourself how likely is it that you would earn in the current environment considering the hotspots nearby, and how likely is it that maybe other people also got hotspots. Personally, if there would be no hotspot around us right now, well, then I would just do what we anyway did, because we also ordered 2 Nibra outdoor hotspots that we're now going to set up in a different city actually. But if there would be no hotspots around us, then well, we would consider approaching the management of skyscrapers around us, but not too close, and maybe pay them a small monthly fee or one-time fee to get our hotspots installed there. I know that would be a hassle, so some additional time investment, but it would instantly make sure that our hotspots witness each other and therefore boost the earnings of not only our main hotspot, but also of the other 2 hotspots. And even if nobody else in Kiev would have jumped on the Helium Network train, we still would make some money. Now, this way, with already being surrounded with a nice grid of hotspots, we just moved the hotspots that we bought from Nibra to a different city where we have relatives, and there, well, we just install them on their house and apartment and therefore earn from that as well and give them a small cut in return. In other words, just like everything else in life, it just depends on your perspective. You choose how you look at it. You can look at it and say, well, there are already hotspots around me. Well, there are already 150,000 or more hotspots on the net, and there will get more, and until I get my hotspot, it will not be profitable anymore. Well, or you can just press the order button, get your hotspot in a couple of months, get it online, and then whatever amount you earn, just wait for it to pay itself off. And either it makes a profit for you long term, or it turns out to be an investment that turned bad for you. But in the end, it comes down to, if you're not willing to take at least small risks here and there, well, you likely will never make a big profit or life-changing money. That doesn't mean that I recommend that you spend the $300 to $400, because it's obviously your money and you have to make your own decisions. I just want to point out how I look at things. That said, if you don't have the money for a hotspot, you should also check out Emrit and iHub. Those are both providers that allow you to get the hotspot for free, although they will then keep a percentage of your earning. Unfortunately, both those services, so Emrit and iHub, are not available all over the world. However, if you don't have the money to get a hotspot yourself, or if you simply don't want to take the risk to spend a couple $100 of your own money, then you might want to look into those services, and eventually maybe you get a hotspot from them. They get, I don't know, 80% of the earnings or 50% of the earnings. It depends on the service that you're using. And in return, you still make profit without any risk. You might just have to cover the shipping fee and maybe some customs fee for the hotspot, but you don't have to pay for all of it yourself. And then if you see it's highly profitable for you, well, then you can still go ahead and buy your own hotspot and basically take the one that you got from iHub or Emrit offline and replace it with your own. Although you'll have to check with the terms and conditions if that's allowed or if there's some penalty for doing so. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So you know now how happy we are with getting our Helium hotspot, and I'm actually super excited to get our Nebra hotspots installed as well within, let's say, the next 4 to 6 weeks. Once we have them live, I'll also make another video that shows then how much we earn with hotspots in different cities. That should give you a better idea if it might be profitable for you to not only get one hotspot, but actually go bigger and think about installing them on other locations as well. As always, I hope you were able to take something away from this video and that it helped you in some way. If you have any questions whatsoever about Helium or the hotspots themselves, don't forget you can always leave a comment down below, or even better, if you check the description or the first pinned comment down below, there is a link that takes you to our Discord community where we have a dedicated Helium channel, and we can discuss Helium and all the questions you have there, basically with me and the community. And not only that, but we also have channels for all the other projects that I'm actively involved in or that I've reviewed in the past, so that you can also get answers to those projects as well. Thanks for watching. See you in one of my other videos. Till then, bye bye.